some disturbing COVID news from researchers at Ohio State today. A new strain of the virus discovered here in America. They say it has mutations never before seen. They also say they found another strain that is identical to the one from the United Kingdom. The researchers say these mutations are likely to make the virus more infectious. Dr. Scott Gottlieb, now CNBC contributor, former FDA commissioner, also on the board of Illumina and Pfizer. Doctor, thanks as always. Please give us your assessment of these new strains and help us understand what they mean for all of us.
Well, look, this virus is evolving all the time, and these strains that we're seeing right now, particularly the UK variant and the variant in Brazil and South Africa, which are very concerning because they've mutated a part of the virus that we've targeted with some of our drugs, they don't seem to be the result of selective pressure in terms of the virus trying to make itself more fit, although it has become more fit. They seem to be variants that emerged in certain patients that may have had chronic infection and were unable to clear it. And then they developed these variants, and the variants then began to propagate. They led to secondary infections after that. So this is inevitable that this virus is going to mutate and evolve this way. I think what it underscores right now is the game's really changed when it comes to the vaccine rollout. And the goal is probably to get as much protective immunity into the population as possible right now, because the vaccine is really our only backstop against these variants taking hold. They're not prevalent here in the United States right now, the UK and the South Africa variant, based on the reporting that we have from the sequencing work that we're doing. But they're going to build very quickly. And if we can't get more protective immunity into the population, we could be facing a situation where we have sort of perpetual infection heading into the spring and the summer as these variants get a foothold here.
Perpetual infection, that means this would continue kind of like we are now at these high, horrific numbers into the summer?
I think that's the risk. Right now, there are indications that the number of infections is starting to peak, and it doesn't feel that way because we're at the very apex of the epidemic right now. Deaths and hospitalizations, unfortunately, are going to continue to build because they're a lagging indicator, but the number of infections may be peaking. We see the positivity rate starting to decline. The rate of transfer, what's called the RT, seems like it's starting to decline. So we may enter a situation that as we head into February and as we head into the spring, March, you start to see infections come down more dramatically, in part because we've infected fully a third of the population, in part because we're vaccinating more people and the virus is starting to burn itself out. But then if these new variants take hold as we enter the spring, which is the risk. Right now, they're less than 1% of all infections, but they're going to build. And by March, they may be 10% of all infections. So if they continue to build, what could have been a relatively quiet spring and summer where we didn't see a lot of infection ends up being a summer where we have more infection because these variants are now circulating and they spread more easily, even in the warm months when we really shouldn't have had a lot of coronavirus spreading.
And we know what we have to do to stop that. We have to wear a mask. We have to stay distanced. We have to maintain hygiene. We have to do it now more than ever. And, Doctor, there's more good news on the vaccine front. I read this new stuff from Johnson & Johnson just out today. Great data on how well this works with one shot. Are you confident in J&J, and how big a breakthrough would that be?
Well, look, I'm confident in Johnson & Johnson's ability to scale the manufacturing here, and that's really been one of the challenges. This does look good. The early data looked encouraging. One of the things that we saw in the data was that the antibody response continued to build even after about 2.5 months. So at day 71, you still saw patients having increasing levels of antibodies, which suggests that the immunity here that this vaccine confers may be enduring and may actually grow over time. So that's very encouraging. This vaccine can be stored in a refrigerator, so it could be delivered in more austere settings in the doctor's office. As you said, it could be delivered probably as a single injection. We need to look at the phase 3 data, which they're hopefully going to have the interim results in the next 2 weeks based on reporting, to see whether or not older individuals might need a second injection to get the full immune protection from this vaccine. But all in all, this looks very encouraging, and it's an indication we may have another vaccine as early as perhaps February on the market.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.